my co-pilot. So we start to saying good afternoon to everyone and a great welcome to our webinar session today, a special session for us. We are coming to an end of the cycle, and we are also coming to the end of the first part of our webinars from 2026. So we have addressed the nature capital, but today we have again a very interesting question. We will look how we can pay for regeneration. We will look at the roles of credits, metrics, and the new funding playbooks. And as we dive into this matter, we know that the true question is not whether nature matters or not. I think we have addressed that point very clearly in the past sessions. What we bring you is a more fundamental question: whether finance is finally moving away, or at least in a way that matches the scale of the challenge that we have ahead of us. Because without capital, the transition from extractive systems to regenerative ones is going to remain too slow, too fragmented, and too dependent on goodwill alone. So finance has this power. It can turn nature from a moral argument into an operating priority. It is finance that shapes what gets measured, what gets rewarded, and so ultimately what gets restored. Let's see what new instruments we have. But just to give you a little bit more context and the scale of the challenge that we have ahead of us, current annual finance to nature is around 220 billion US dollars. That's the current annual finance. But the funding gap for biodiversity is around 700 billion US dollars. And the estimates for 2030 suggest that we might need 1.15 trillion US dollars to biodiversity related finance. So we are talking very big scale. It's a very huge challenge in terms of the money that we need to ensure that biodiversity is restored. And again, if we want this transition to be smooth, fair, and it lasts, we also need to look at who is able to access these opportunities and who is actually shaping these opportunities. And women are quite often central to agricultural knowledge, land stewardship, and community resilience. But we know they are still too often underrepresented in finance, decision making, and access to resources. So we bring women's empowered, and we look at it not just as add-on to sustainable finance, but we believe it's a condition that we need to bring to the table to make this transition work in practice. And to guide this discussion, we are very pleased to welcome three speakers. Three distinguished speakers. Let me start by introducing you Jessica Duncan. She's an associate professor at Wageningen University. Jessica specialized in politics of food systems transformation, with her research focusing on food governance, power dynamics, and pathways towards just and sustainable food systems. And Jessica today will help us reflect on how financial mechanisms shape governance, priorities, and powers across the food sector. We also have the pleasure to be joined by Nikolaos Dedousis. He's a professional at Piraeus Bank, a bank that specializes in agricultural banking, and his work focuses on financial solutions for the agri-food system, and also on supporting farmers and agribusiness in their transition towards more sustainable and resilient practices. Nikolaos brings us a practical banking perspective on how finance can support transformation on the ground. And we also have the pleasure to be joined by the head of sustainability at Crédito Agrícola, André Braga. who is working at the intersection of sustainable finance, ESG strategy, banking transformation, with a strong focus on integrating sustainability into financial services and supporting the transitions toward more resilient business models. And André will help us explore how sustainability is being embedded into finance, decision making, and banking practices. And many, many thanks for me and the rest of the team for your presence here, and to all the participants. I really hope that you enjoy this discussion. As always, our conversation, these conversations also connect with the broader work that Food for Sustainability does. As you know, we have key facilities that allow us to support a living ecosystem of experimentation, learning, and territorial innovation. We have our Regeneration Lab, which is our soil health and function laboratory. We focus on quantifying and measuring soil microbiome. Also at Nazaré, we have Amplicentro, where we combine under integrated multi-trophic system the production of microalgae, fish and vegetables. This is also where we do the propagation of our native communities that can then support regenerative agriculture and more resilient systems. And then in the region of Idanha Nova, we have an experimental site where we test these solutions in practice, and we see how they can actually assist the primary producers. And let me also take this opportunity to remind you that we keep linking these webinars to our Healthy Soil for Life summer program, which brings this conversation from policy to finance back to practice. We want to ensure that everything that we discuss here, then we can all together see how this materializes in practice. So this is a program that we have designed for people who want to deepen their understanding on soil health, regenerative agriculture, and also the role of innovation in building more resilient food systems. And again, throughout these 3 weeks, 2 online and 1 on-site, we combine the science with the practical learning, bringing together, research, field experience, and real-world challenges. So if you want to join, we are very, very pleased to welcome you. We would be very pleased to receive you here in the summer. So I leave here our QR code. Just have a look, see where it fits your learning abilities or your schedules, and join us. Will be a pleasure to spend part of the summer with you. So we leave here this information for participants that are interested. And we are about to start, but just before we start, a few house rules. Okay, so you remember these webinars are recorded. Questions are welcome. You know that we will take your questions through the chat here on Teams or through Slido. We will address your questions at the end of each presentations, and also at the end of the session we have a short quiz for those that would like to get a certificate from their participants here in the session with us. It's also for those that want just to test their knowledge to see if they have retained something from this session. You're more than welcome to join this questionnaire. Okay? Do you remember what we always do before we start? Let's do a little warm-up, although at least here in Portugal is quite warm, so the warm-up, I'm glad that it's digital because it's getting difficult. So this is the time for us to join Slido. Okay, I will invite you all now to join Slido. QR code that the team has already put here in the screen. Again, through your browser, www.slido.com. In the hashtag box, you can insert your code F4S Academy. Thank you for also having the link in the chat. I know sometimes we go very fast and then our audience wants to join in and we have moved Slido, but we have the information here in the chat. So, and also come and have a look to what the team has prepared. They are always very keen in getting interesting questions for our warm up. Sophia, I know you have the controls now. Just let me know if we are ready to move to the first question. Oh, this is an interesting one. I've just brought you these numbers. Let's see who has retained some of these numbers. How much finance currently flows to nature-based solutions each year? So what are the numbers? So $7 billion, $700 billion, $1.15 trillion, $220. Okay, good. And the votes are coming. It's how much currently flows into nature-based solutions. And clearly, $70 billion is a lot of money, but it's still below recent estimates for nature-based solutions, which is good. $700 billion, it's well over the estimate. 1.15 trillion refers, and you were right, I quoted this number, refers to the estimate biodiversity related finance flows is needed by 2030. So the correct answer, well done everyone, is $220 billion. This shows that finance for restoring nature-based solution is growing, but it's still quite far from achieving the level that we need to meet global diversity, biodiversity, climates, and of course, restoration goals. So well done. Thank you so much for taking part. Let's move to the second question. You are all welcome to take part. So what separates a real nature credit from a real buzzword? Is the ability to do storytelling? Is it to pay a premium, metrics monitoring and verification, or is whether the project is located at a large farm? Okay, okay, so we have agreements, voting. Very consensual, this question. So we have here a strong story. Definitely a strong story can help communicating impact, but storytelling alone does not prove that nature has indeed improved. A buyer willing to pay is of course very, very important for market demand, but price alone does not automatically equals to environmental integrity. So it's not about the willingness to buy. Farm size, okay, does not determine credibility. So small and large farms, they both need a clear, robust evidence. So it's true that what we need is a clear metrics, monitoring and verification. And this is indeed one of the main challenges that lie in the issuing of these nature credits, because without transparent methods and trust MRR systems, credits risks becoming a vague, sustainable claim rather than a reliable tool for financing regeneration. So credits is only as strong as the evidence behind it. So thank you. Metrics, monitoring and verification. Thank you so much. And we have a final question. What are banks increasingly looking at besides farm income, environment performance and transition risk, the number of hectares owned, short-term crop yields, or farms that avoid external financing? Short-term crop yields, environment performance, and transition risk. That's also an interesting one. So I will start with some questions that are clearly not the right ones. So the number of hectares owned. We know that the land area matters, but hectares alone do not show whether a farm is resilient, profitable, or even environmentally sustainable. So it's not the number of hectares owned. The crop yields. Short-term yields remain important, but they don't capture this exposure to capital, to climate, sorry, not capital, uh, climate, soil, water, or even biodiversity. Not possible to do this in a short-term approach. And access to all external financing, this is not the goal at all. And many transitions are even better when they rely on external financing. So thank you so much. The correct answer is indeed environment, performance, and transition risks. And indeed, banks and investors are increasingly paying more attention to how farmers manage soil health, water stress, emissions, biodiversity, climate adaptation, and long-term resilience. So well done. Thank you very much. Let me look at you. I think we feel uh, much warmer by now, right? Jessica, hello, good afternoon. So it's time to call you to the floor. Thank you so much for being here. So when you're ready, please
Yeah,
can share
thank
your
you. Let
screen.
me get started on sharing my screen here. Great. I assume now you can see my screen?
Yes, all good from our end.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much for inviting me to speak on this topic. And well, the idea of today is to think about finance and metrics and credit. I'm actually going to focus a little bit more on budgets and think about the question of gender and how we actually fund agriculture from a policy perspective, because that's very much aligned with my own area of expertise and research agenda. That's not changing slides. There we go. So maybe you all know this, but it is the International Year of the Woman Farmer. And it's the International Year of the Woman Farmer for a reason. And we have this question, why do we still need to talk about gender? You know, it's 2026, but it maybe for many of us, it feels like more than ever, talking about gender is important. And why it's important to talk about gender and why it's the International Year of the Woman Farmer is because farming is marked by high levels of inequality. And often this high level of inequality isn't immediately seen or recognized, but it translates to questions of access to resources, finance, land, etc. We have inequality in who is represented in terms of farming, and also inequalities in the recognition of the kinds of work different people do. At the European level, we also know that women, and here I'm trying to not fall into the binary understanding of gender, but women we know are underrepresented in farming. And the average of farms across Europe that are led by women is 31%. And there are really wide variations in that. So in my own country, well, the country I'm living in now, the Netherlands, the formal estimate is 6% of farms, but this data is also a bit problematic because we also have partnerships where only one of the partners will register, but two are leading in practice. So again, we need to be quite careful with the data here, and this will come back over and over again in this talk. We know that farms managed by women overall tend to be smaller, physically and economically. And again, if we look at the European averages, women-led farms tend to be around 9 hectares versus 21 hectares for male-managed farms. And we also see differences in levels of education. So we know that of all the women farmers in the European Union, 19% have received basic or full training. And those of you who are familiar with subsidies and accessing finance on farm know how important it is to have basic and full training to access a lot of these resources. So what I'm trying to show here is that we may not see or hear a lot about, and especially in a European context, gender inequality when it comes to farming and when it comes to the financing of farming. But there are deep inequalities, and the way that we finance and the way that we organize budgets around finance, research shows that that's actually very gendered, and maybe in really subtle ways that aren't very obvious. And so what I want to look at today is this question of how do we actually think about and measure gender when it comes to agriculture in Europe? And I like these two quotes. So we have these two ideas. You can't manage what you don't measure, right? That's common. If we can't measure it, we can't manage it. But I also like this quote by Robert McNamara, which is, not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. And this is a tension that we also experience when we do gender-based work, is that not everything that we can recognize as gender inequality is easily accounted for. It's not very easy to count care work, for example, or to count power differentiations, or to count gender stereotypes. So these are things that I think we can reflect on when we think about reimagining how we can finance and organize budgets to enhance gender equality. And again, that's really critical if we're serious about real regeneration. So one of the main ways that we measure gender when it comes to finance and budgets is through this idea of gender budgeting. And I want to just explain what that is. It's a method for budgeting that can identify and improve gender equality through a system of analysis of how money is distributed and to whom. It's very simple in theory, right? It aims to promote accountability and transparency in fiscal planning. It aims to enhance equitable participation by engaging men and women in the budget process. And its end goal is, of course, to enhance gender equality, because again, what we measure matters, right? So I don't know how many of you are following the European level discussions or following the intense process of negotiating the new multi-annual financial framework for the European Union. If you're not following this crazy process, it's happening right now, and they're moving towards a post-2027 budget for Europe. And that's exciting, and I'm going to get to that. But I want to tell you what it looks like now. So now, within the current multi-annual financial framework of the European Commission, there is a horizontal principle to support equality between men and women. And we see that already in this MFF, so in this period, there has been an effort to try and bring forward a methodology around gender and budgeting. It's a data approach collected on the basis of scoring, and its application has led to some gaps, or to the identification of some gaps. So when we look at the cap, we see that expenditure by gender is already starting to be measured, and we know the figures are pretty bleak. So of all the cap income support, that's only 15% is granted to women farm managers. And 31% of all CAP beneficiaries are women. So if you do the math, women aren't even getting a representative share. And what is important here is this is also not easily tied to gender inequality, but we know that because women farm smaller farms and payments are often linked to area-based payments, that women then receive less funding. So it's not immediately a gender equality issue, but there is a discrepancy here. When it comes to the two pillars of the CAP, until very recently, there has been no official mention of gender mainstreaming or gender budgeting, but there has been this requirement to publish who the beneficiaries are across the two pillars. And again, in the current CAP, it doesn't specify that the data needs to be disaggregated by sex or gender. And that's a problem for those of us who work in gender. Again, what we measure allows us to count and manage. So what there is in the current CAP is a requirement to involve bodies responsible for gender equality as partners, and then I put in bold where relevant. when we prepare and monitor the national strategic plan. So most national strategic plans, so the translation of the CAP to the government, the national context, should have included experts in gender equality. But this idea of where relevant leaves a lot of discrepancy and a lot of opportunity for member states to not really take it seriously. So how do we define what is relevant and not, especially when we know that so many of the gendered effects of the way we budget and finance in agriculture are hidden? Maybe just to share a little bit more, last slide on the current situation. We know that member states are not required, but they are encouraged to assess the situation of women in farming. And when you look specifically within the CAP at the indicators, if you're familiar with the CAP, you know there's impact indicators and results indicators, right? So what we're measuring, the impacts that we're measuring and the results that we're measuring. And only 3 of them mention gender or women. And those are, I think it's telling, right? We talk about women when we're trying to attract young farmers, then we ask for a gender breakdown. So that's also around generational renewal. And also when we're thinking about jobs and employment. But for all the rest, it doesn't really come up. So I mentioned we're in this moment of negotiation at the European level to decide how we're going to organize the next MFF. And that will influence how we organize the CAP and subsidies, and that will change and have impacts on how finance is distributed through the national strategic plans. And what I find interesting and important in the context of this conversation is there is a proposal to introduce a simplified and harmonized approach to gender mainstreaming across the EU budget. So they're expanding on their commitment to gender equality, and that's linked to broader commitments to gender equality at the European level. So there is this horizontal gender mainstreaming provision with calibrated alignment and differentiated operationalization per management mode. So there's more attention to how do we actually do gender mainstreaming. And we do see that there's, in the proposal, funding instruments will need to apply the horizontal principle of gender equality. Just a bit advanced from last time. In the previous, it was equality between men and women, and now we have gender equality. And again, here it's where feasible and appropriate and in line with principles of economy, efficiency, and effectiveness in accordance with financial regulation. And I think it's important to highlight attention here because in our own research into how to improve the experiences and access and engagement of women in farming, we show that when gender equality and even sustainability are put in the same level of priority as economic efficiency and effectiveness, those take priority over human rights and equality. And that's a decision we can make, but I think it's a problematic one and it's a short-term thinking kind of approach to suggest that we could even separate these things, no? Or that the principle of efficiency should come before the principle of gender equality. It's a debate that I'm very happy to think, maybe, think through with you. Just if you haven't been exposed to gender budgeting, the methodology is quite simple. What you do is you look at what you're spending money on, right? You take your budget, and if the activity has gender equality as an objective, you get a score of 2. If activities are with gender equality are seen as important or a deliberative objective, but not the main objective, so there's some gender in there, you get a score of 1. And if you anticipate that there's no contribution to gender equality, you get a score of 0. So it's a very, theoretically, very simple scoring system, no? And you can see who's doing what when it comes to the allocation of finance and budgets. So if we look at that broader framework for the MFF in the post-2027 moment, we do see an interesting framework for advancing gender equality, including farming in rural areas. And in this proposal, we see, for example, and you can look it up later, but Article 6 is targeting specific support for women in the new CAP proposal. We see provisions on farm relief services in the CAP regulation. And there's also an expectation that these NRPs, which is a new regulation, a new mode, right? And national and regional partnership plans and performance regulations will support that. But there's also a big concern that as we move towards these NRPs, we're going to see an uncommoning of the common agricultural policy, and that some of the power of and sort of normative power of the European Commission will be diluted, and there'll be less strength given to these values like gender equality, particularly in countries where we've seen a backsliding on gender. So just to wrap up, I want to come back to this quote: "Not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted." So I think it's fantastic that the Commission is starting to get serious and implementing a horizontal methodology and principle to track how we spend money. But I think it's also, and what that means for gender equality. But I think it's also critical to recognize that this is not a comprehensive approach. Tracking gender expenditures across programs is one part of the puzzle. But if we want to get serious about addressing gender inequalities, we need to think about integrating gender at all stages of the budget cycle, including design, implementation, monitoring and evaluation, etc. I also think it's telling that there is no actual budget identified for gender equality interventions. So we're asking people to do the work, but we're not backing it up with budget. We have not there's no set specific objectives for gender equality. And again, this is left to the member states to define. And I think this is a real risk, because there's a risk that interventions will be limited, but also that member states will be tempted to give a score of 0, right? That this is not something that impacts gender. For example, access to training might be seen as gender neutral, or subsidies based on area-based payments may be seen as gender neutral, but we know that there are often very hidden gendered impacts. Finally, also effectiveness is not measured. So we're giving a score of whether it addresses gender, but not if it does it well or not. And there's also this risk that the performance of budgeting, of doing gender budgeting, can mask the trade-offs. And I got to this a little bit in my earlier point, right? If gender is going to be only when efficient and effective, we know that the transition towards a more gender equal, a more equal society is not an efficient process. It may lead to more efficiencies, it may lead to more equality, it may lead even to better economics, but the transition is going to take time, it's going to involve some social pain, it's going to involve costs. And there's a bit of a tension here, that we might mask that actual real work with this idea that, yes, we're counting gender and therefore gender is being improved. And I think this is maybe one of the downsides of this current moment of simplification that we're in at the level of the Commission. So finally, I like this metaphor. There's a tendency when we address gender to just add women and stir. Let's take the existing policies, sprinkle a little gender in there, stir it up, and maybe then we'll get better policies. And I think this is very dangerous. It does more harm than good. And we need to ensure that if we're serious about financing sustainable and regenerative food systems, that gender inequalities and intersecting forms of discrimination are integrated systemically and cautiously and carefully into policy design. And we want to do this because a fairer food system is a more sustainable food system. We know that women-led and collective farming initiatives are pioneering exciting new agricultural practices. We know that if we take gender seriously, we have better capacity to deal with inequalities around land concentration, decision-making, democratic processes, et cetera, et cetera. So with that, I want to thank some of my colleagues who've been working on this with me as part of the SWIFT project. It's a European funded project. We have a comic book that we've tried to make looking at the experiences of women in relation to agricultural policies across Europe, built on case studies from Spain, Poland, and Austria. And I really want to thank my colleagues Georgia Diamanti, Louise Lejean, and Laura Escha for their collaboration. If you want to find out more about the EU-funded SWIFT project supporting women-led innovations in farming and rural territories, It's swiftproject.eu, and there you can also find our beautiful comic book. Yep, and with that, I pass it back. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jessica. It was very interesting and bringing again to the table the glass ceiling problem that has been on the table for decades and decades. Also interesting that gender is not mentioning, and I would question whether Europe feels too embarrassed to have to bring in gender again into the topic, as we go into the millennium. And from your presentation, it looked like to me that Europe is moving towards a positive discrimination for women. So this runs against some of the principles that one of the critics about positive discrimination is about efficiency and resources. Could you bring us and elaborate a little bit on projects, real projects that have shown that this positive discrimination are actually good in economic terms, in societal terms, or are we still short in real case? And just because we could also argue that women are, culturally more fit to certain types of jobs like nursing and caring, many years of evolution have places in this position. So it could be that it's not something natural for women to farm, but would this positive discrimination help us to overcome this cultural um, presence that dictates that we go one way or the other?
Yeah, thank you, Claudia. I would challenge this idea that women aren't suited to farming. I think we see some of the most exciting innovations and practices led by women. I think one of the challenges is that much of the infrastructure doesn't fit women's bodies or women's experiences. But certainly, I wouldn't necessarily make such a statement about whose bodies and which people can or do not farm or should not farm. But in terms of the idea of positive discrimination or gender, trying to improve and enhance gender equality, we there's an economic argument that's been really well made, right? Investing in women is a safer bet. I think a lot of the studies show that women will take less risk but have higher payoffs for investment. And still we see that women are less likely to get loans, less likely to access finance, despite the ongoing studies that show that women are the better investment choice. And maybe our bankers here can explain why. I certainly can't. And I also feel a bit uncomfortable reducing gender equality to economic arguments. I know that that's a very important and powerful narrative, especially in our society. But for me, this is a bigger question of equality and access. No, and I think where we do see these questions of positive discrimination, we do know that quotas, when done right, tend to work. No, when we have farm advisors who are sensitive to the experiences of women, or actually are women farmers themselves, we see that women farmers themselves respond better. And that's one of the things that they're trying to prioritize in the new CAP is how do we ensure a more diverse range of farm advisors? And the research we do with women farmers show that often their innovations, their business models aren't taken as seriously, and that trend corresponds to data from other sectors. And part of that then relates to ideas around what makes a good leader, what makes a good business person. We do have quite a lot of evidence that positive discrimination functions to enhance diversity, enhance productivity, enhance even profit in the business world, but it's not easy. And it is complicated, and there's many reasons for that. Some of them are cultural norms, some of them are societal preferences. Some of them are the fact that machinery is designed for bodies that would, in many ways, women are not as physically strong and struggle to sort of integrate those modes. There's a lot of women choose to have babies, and that creates a division of labor on the farm. which doesn't mean that they're not part of the farming enterprise, but maybe not seen as the farmer and therefore less legitimate through business decisions. So I'm sidestepping the positive examples, but I'm trying to sort of nuance the question a bit. I hope that's okay.
That's absolutely fine. And we know that the less we specialize, the more specialized we become. So every time that we move on but as we normally say here at Food for Sustainability, if this was an easy problem to solve, we wouldn't be here discussing the issues. Surely very, very complex. And Jessica, I'm just going to ask my team to place a question that we have in the Slido here in the chat. If you could address, I'm just conscious of the time when we need to move on. Nikolaos, we also want to hear from the finance perspective if you have the gender policies, or at least if you could share some numbers how you address this, or whether this is a problem. So
you will hear very shortly.
Yes, thank you. So you are already on the screen, so the floor is now yours. Thank you so much, Nicola.
So thank you very much. Very interesting presentation from Jessica. We also addressed these issues ourselves. It is an honor to be here today. So greetings from Greece. Thank you very much for the invitation. I also thank you very much. I'm Nikolaos Dedousis. You stated this earlier, Dedousis in Greek. And I work for Piraeus Bank Agricultural Banking Division, the only bank in Greece with a dedicated general division. I am an agronomist, agricultural economist, to be more precise. And so my expertise includes identifying opportunities and strategic planning in the agri-food sector. My team, our team is also we have been exploring also the common agricultural policy, and we are really interested in how we can leverage all these opportunities also mentioned before to give value to our customers and to add to their journey to their long-term success. So furthermore, we also follow new financial instruments. We cooperate with EIF, EIB. It's all this capital in favor of our customers. So, as I said, Piraeus is a leading financial institution in Greece. So we have a very strong presence in the Greek banking market. We are the leaders in loans and deposits, and we also we are recognized for our expertise in the ESG sector, as discussed earlier by you, Claudia. And yes, environmental performance and transition risk is a matter that we address daily. So we focus also in energy transition, web banking solutions, automated solutions, and services, and also we are leading in agricultural banking. So we try to have a holistic approach to the agri sector. And we try to focus and try to solve all the unique challenges farmers and agribusinesses face. Some of them discussed earlier from Jessica. This extends to try to build strong partnerships and build links and cooperation and facilitate cooperation between different stakeholders in the whole sector, as you see in this slide. So we, as a financial institution, we try to be an enabler of structural change. So in agriculture, this role for us is more critical because we deal with critical problems like fragmented production and high exposure to climate risk, as discussed. So At Piraeus, we try to position ourselves as a partner to its stakeholder of the agricultural economy. So our approach is structured across, let's say, three basic pillars. Farmers first, always first. The priority here is the journey to modernization and resilience, as already discussed. Financing for us focuses more on improving productivity and efficiency. And this can only be achieved by new machinery and buildings, new irrigation systems, precision agriculture technologies, new technologies in general. At the same time, we focus to enhance farm income and also to try to add value on the production and move the products beyond being just commodities. Secondly, one of our main pillar is cooperatives and agribusinesses. So here the challenge, as we state, is competitiveness and the journey to be bigger. We support outward-looking business models and export-oriented businesses, and also investments in processing. These, for us, are essential for the strengthening of the value food chain. The third pillar for us is the public sector and how, in particular, how we can implement national and European programs. We try to act as a transmission channel, so to connect the funds with our customers. We try to enable with easy procedures, flexible procedures, the grant pre-financing, and also facilitate the investment plan implementation. So our role as a closer is to connect capital with the real economy and their needs. And we try to translate our strategic priorities, such sustainability, as we said, and resilience, because we see it every day, into real investments. So as the leading bank in Greece in the agribusiness, we have a wide collection of products that is addressed to agri customers, and we try to follow every step of their business journey and enable access to affordable financing and also services for their business and for their daily work. The bank's products cover everything from business loans to mortgage loans and also insurance products that will cover all their needs from A to Z. So over time, we try to improve our portfolio of products and to add more products that can cover different needs that come up over the time. So, for example, the first one that we see here, AgroLink, is a working capital solution designed to address a very practical problem, a big constraint for farmers, the access to inputs. So we tried by linking directly and for a special purpose a loan that it goes directly to the suppliers and it ensures liquidity. And it also strengthens relationship within the value chain. The second solution is an old one, but we still consider it as an innovation. Is contract farming or contractual farming. It represents more something like a strategic intervention for us, and it started back in 2013. So here financing is structured around the relationship between the producers and their buyers. What we have seen as a result is that there is stability, improved planning and trust between the two partners. So the scale of this project, we have reached something like 40,000 farmers that have entered in general since 2013 the program. This can show us how such models can transform the entire sector. The third solution, at the same time, we try to develop tools that are connected with one big problem, which is price volatility. So AgriFlex, in a few words, is a product that introduces flexibility in the loan repayments. So we try to make a product that adapts to the price fluctuations. And the first sector that we introduce it is dairy. We also offer basic products like loans for covering land acquisition, equipment, and infrastructure. And also we offer specialized insurance solutions for farmers, such as MyAgro, Land and MyAgro Farm. This connects directly to the climate-related risks. For us, also important is the connection that we have with the cooperatives and the support that we offer to cooperative entities. And for this specific part of our job is we try to combine financial solutions with advisory support. So our message here is we try to have multiple tools in order to align all needs across the value chain. And as sustainable growth is a really important issue for Piraeus Bank and its ESG strategy, we believe that as we see here, alternative energy utilization is really essential to the agri-sector. And we offer financing packages and services in order to help the development of renewable energy sources. And we do that in Greece through modern photovoltaic systems. So by financing on-farm energy production, we reduce the cost and we increase the resilience of the farm. In line with this, Piraeus offers tailored solutions for smart farming investments and also for organic farmers. We have specialized products. And also when we talk about ESG in agriculture, we also focus in how we implement this support. So in the first column, we see that we offer direct support when we have climate-affected areas and farmers. So following extreme weather events, our priority is to offer liquidity and recovery. And we provide flexible financing, most of the times with preferential terms. And also we cooperate with the state and we support all measures taken by the state. The objective, our target, is to maintain the product, avoid the long-term damage. So secondly, we try to focus on proactive actions and proactive investments in order to find resilience in the farm. So this includes specialized financial programs like for greenhouses or as well as solutions for water efficiency and crop protections. These are for us not just simple improvements. We think that they represent a shift towards more controlled and efficient production systems. The third pillar for us here is to have a holistic approach, as we said earlier, and an understanding of the agricultural economy. We understand that there are many parameters that affect agriculture. We have the agronomic parameters, the economic, and also environment. So having experience means that we are able to design a solution that can connect to these parameters. So closing this slide, ESG for us is trying to redesign our financial products and align with the transformation that happens around us and all the needs for increased productivity, for efficiency, and for climate adaptation. Really important for us are the national and European programs for farmers looking for financial instruments to support and back up their investment programs. Piraeus Bank offers tailored support to their farm needs. These services comprise a bundle of products ranging from land purchase loans that comes with longer loan duration to the specialized solution to suit young and newcomers farmers that comes with most of the time longer grace period. From business loans in cooperation with national and European agencies such as Hellenic Development Bank, which is a Greek development bank, and European Investment Bank and European Investment Fund, to the working capital in cooperation with the Greek state for the businesses that they want to receive an approved subsidy from a development program in advance. So in Greece, national and European programs play a very fundamental role that helps the transition, the green transition also. At Piraeus, we actively participate across a wide range of instruments. For example, we channel capital through mechanisms such as interest rate subsidies up to 100% for the first 2 years. We have a specialized program with Hellenic Development Bank, which was a micro loan up to 25,000 euros that significantly reduced the cost of capital for farmers. And we approved more than 2,500 new loans. We also used a guarantee scheme that covered up to 80% of the loan exposure. That was really
I think we lost Nicholas. The internet was coming and going. Nicholas? Let's just give it a couple of minutes just to see if it will recover. Well, I will take this opportunity also to let you know that our next speaker, André, is going to speak in Portuguese. So for all of you that have the premium version from Teams, if you can enable your subtitles, you can follow. But André also has the presentation in English. So I think André, are you there with us?
Yes, I am.
Yes, hello, André. Hello. So I think we're going to move now and wait for Nicola to join us later on. Most unfortunately, but these things happen with digital tools. So André, boa tarde.
Boa tarde.
Good afternoon.
I'm switching to Portuguese and
So,
sharing my presentation.
we have Nicholas.
Yeah?
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you, André.
Don't worry, Alexander.
Don't worry, Nicola. We lost you for a few minutes.
Sorry
No
about that.
worries. It happens. We could tell that your internet connection was unstable. We could see some cuts while you were presenting, but now you seem to be back again and all running. So shall we take the opportunity
Yes,
to?
yes. Give me a sec. You want to proceed with the next
No,
speaker, or
no.
so
I would rather you.
I'm sharing again, eh? Okay.
Yes, please. If it
Give me a
becomes too
second.
demanding on your network, we can share from our ends. I think, Sofia, hello, you have the Nicola presentation if needed, right?
So, if I'm not mistaken, we are here.
Yes. You were just talking about the grant.
The microloan,
Yep.
Yeah. So you heard about the microloan,
Yes.
the up to 25,000, and then we were speaking about the 80% loan guarantee that was really critical for us and helped a great number of farmers and also cooperatives. As we said, also a very important and key role is playing grant pre-financing for businesses in Greece, and this kind of loans they address the bottleneck in EU programs. Meaning the time lag between the project approval and the final disbursement. So we provide the bridge financing, and we ensure that all investments are implemented without delays. And as you see on the right edge of the presentation, the results are tangible. There is a great number of new loans that have been approved, and financing have been directed also to farmers and producers and agricultural cooperatives and agribusinesses. So the key takeaway here is leverage. When public funds are combined with banking expertise and capital, they can fasten investment and accelerate transformation. I'm trying to speed a little bit more because of the delay, but not for this slide. This slide is really important for us. It is also, I think, one of the most important structural issues in the European agriculture. It is a generational renewal. The aging of the farming population comes all over place in EU, and it creates more risks, not only for productivity, but also for innovation and long-term sustainability. So our approach to young farmers is not limited just to entry support when they enter. We try to follow them on the road and also stay with them for their long-term development. So we have a dedicated framework that combines financing with support mechanisms like training, recognizing that younger farmers have different needs and different characteristics, and we try to see them differently in our bank. So young farmers, they tend to be more familiar with environmental issues, with new technologies, They are more open to collaboration, and they are more willing to adapt new practices. This, for us, creates a strong link between generational renewal and green transition, which is really important. And at the same time, we try to support the knowledge transfer process between the older farmers, the old generation, and the new generations. And this transition is of great interest for us. Because we think that this combination is critical in order to upgrade, to go to the next level as far as it concerns farming practices, i.e. regenerative agriculture. For us, this is real, and as we saw in the past year, 40% of our financing in our segment went to young farmers. This, for us, reflects the strategic priority that this segment has for the bank. Investing in young farmers for us is investing in the future. So we try to support them in order to have a more productive, more innovative, and more aligned with sustainability future. So our key message here is that generational renewal is a key economic and environmental driver. One key lesson that we have learned the past year is that agricultural finance needs to have an integrated, vertically integrated approach in order to address the full value chain and align the investments across all segments and across all needs. The transition from open field to green houses for us is the first example. As stated before, for us this is not just a technological shift. It also involves new business models and higher capital intensity, and the change and the shift in the risk profile of the farmer. To support these transitions, we work within an ecosystem that includes developers, technology providers, insurers, and so financing for us is combined with grants, as we saw before, and advisory services to ensure that all investments are viable. The similar logic we try to apply it in livestock. Modernization for us is really important, and also improvements in biosecurity, animal welfare, and digital monitoring. In Greece, we have a big problem with some diseases, animal diseases, the past 2 or 3 years. So the reduction of risk and the increase of efficiency is really required, and it also required investments. Finally, water management for us is also another critical dimension. We focus on precision irrigation and how we can reduce the water consumption while maintaining the yields. However, this again requires also an integrated solution that combines equipment, know-how, and financing. So the objective here is to support the entire production systems, to connect production, processing, and the market access. And for us, this is what makes the investments viable and environmental sustainable. And finally, to conclude, I would like to emphasize that transformation requires coordination across the entire ecosystem. So our role is not only to finance, but also to mobilize the whole ecosystem. This, for us, starts by understanding how the trends and how the market works and how the markets evolve. We try to find where the investment gaps are and which segments have the biggest potential. So based on this, we design solutions, targeted solutions that try to cover the whole value chain. And for us, as stated also before, collaboration is a really key element. So we try to work with all the partners and all the stakeholders of the value chain, which includes universities, technology providers, institutions, and we try to strengthen innovation and ensure that solutions are viable. So the greenhouse example for us illustrates this approach very well. So our role is to connect this ecosystem, as we see in the bottom of the slide.
Nicholas, we are running
Yes.
a
Okay.
bit short of time.
I'm closing. So for us, the key message is that sustainability is not achieved by following isolated actions, but you need to mobilize and coordinate the whole agricultural system. Sorry for the delay.
No problem. Thank you so much. It's just that we won't have time for we have a question for questions. We have a question here in the chat, so I will again ask the team to place the question here for Nicholas to address. Just one quick comment. I think this is a very interesting approach towards sustainability. Is that when organizations start to see sustainability, resilience as a business opportunity, and probably this is what we need more and more. In this case, we have a finance institution. I think it was very clear that the instruments that you have, because we also need to bring in this perspective of how we can profit from this opportunity that it is to turn things more sustainable and more resilient. So thank you so much, Nicholas, for showing it that you already have your question in the chat. And André,
Okay.
hello, you are
Thank
smiling,
you
André. It's good. Thank you for your presentation, which is good, and you are patient. André is going to speak in Portuguese. André, thank you so much. Whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Obrigado. Não sei se já estão a ver. Eu penso que sim.
Sim. Yeah, we can see it.
Eu, estruturei, depois desta apresentação do Nicolas, vai ser difícil bater aqui a apresentação tão detalhada com projetos bastante interessantes, mas eu trago-vos aqui também a abordagem que o Crédito Agrícola tem tentado trazer para o setor, e estruturando a apresentação de uma forma em que vos dou a conhecer o Crédito Agrícola. Espero que todos os portugueses aqui presentes já o conheçam, mas também faz sentido apresentar-vos para também dar aqui um bom enquadramento que justifica a nossa abordagem àquilo que também é os desafios da sustentabilidade e os desafios da sustentabilidade do setor, propriamente do setor agrícola. Portanto, o Crédito Agrícola tem aqui um modelo de funcionamento um pouco diferenciado daquilo que são bancos tradicionais. Portanto, tem um modelo cooperativo, portanto, é uma rede de, digamos assim, de 60 bancos locais, em que as decisões de financiamento são tomadas ao nível local, das comunidades locais, e, portanto, tem aqui uma grande cumplicidade com aquilo que é o tecido económico empresarial das comunidades, está muito atento àquilo que são as necessidades de financiamento dos produtores agrícolas, dos comerciantes, das famílias de cada uma das comunidades, e portanto tem aqui um fit muito natural com aquilo que é os desafios locais e relacionados com a sustentabilidade. Portanto, é um modelo cooperativo que é muito parecido com outros congéneres europeus, com o Rabobank, com o Crédito Agrícola, com o Cajamar espanhol, e apesar de termos no nome setor agrícola, e temos uma grande importância, como vamos ver a seguir, a verdade é que o Crédito Agrícola é um banco universal e, portanto, muito representativo daquilo que é a economia portuguesa, e, portanto, também temos uma grande exposição a setores como o turismo, como o comércio, como a indústria, que são também setores muito afetados por estes desafios, que são comuns também ao setor agrícola, e, portanto, há aqui uma grande necessidade de trabalhar as questões da sustentabilidade também de forma multissectorial e ligando vários setores e relacionando também com a cadeia de valor e, portanto, o setor agrícola tem aqui também uma bastante importância para outros setores que também temos uma grande exposição, como o turismo e como o comércio. A verdade é que também temos aqui um particular desafio, que é nós somos um financiador de muitas microempresas, de produtores também de pequena dimensão, e sabemos que são eles que têm a maior dificuldade também de acesso a conhecimento, de acesso a financiamento, e portanto também acabamos por cumprir aqui um papel de inclusão financeira e inclusão financeira também nestes processos de transição, que também sabemos que têm os seus custos de contexto também associados. Na verdade, apesar do setor agrícola, lá está, não ser o único setor em quem nós prestamos serviços financeiros, a verdade é que nós temos uma cota de mercado, somos líderes de mercado em Portugal, portanto somos o maior banco financiador do setor, e o setor representa, o setor agroalimentar, portanto agricultura e indústria alimentar, representa 15% da nossa carteira, mais de 15% da nossa carteira de financiamento, e portanto é natural que nós também temos preocupação da resiliência deste setor de atividade, porque temos uma grande exposição também a este setor de atividade. Como é que nós expressamos, como é que temos vindo a expressar tradicionalmente o nosso apoio a este setor? Não só através do financiamento, portanto, das soluções de financiamento tradicionais, de investimento, de tesouraria, mas também ajudando a eventos que debatem o futuro do setor, que servem de montra aos nossos produtores nacionais, participando em alianças, e o Nicolas também referia algumas alianças também no caso grego. Nós também estamos muito aliados com aquilo que é a Confagri, a CAP, portanto, participando como parceiros nestas confederações, dando, lá está, apoio e suporte a estas associações que têm um grande papel para o setor agrícola, e também através disso dando condições de financiamento mais adequadas e preferenciais, descontos de spread, etc., para produtores que participem nestas associações. Portanto, tem sido aqui, antes de haver a sustentabilidade, antes de estar a sustentabilidade a integrar a nossa estratégia de negócio, já tradicionalmente o Crédito Agrícola trabalhava junto do setor através deste tipo de associações e de eventos a que nos estávamos associados. E, portanto, lá está, como o nosso posicionamento, a nossa exposição a este setor é bastante elevada, o nosso papel no financiamento do setor também é bastante relevante, obviamente que nós não somos alheios àquilo que são os desafios climáticos, ambientais, sociais, também muitas vezes esquecemos sociais, mas o acesso à mão de obra também é uma questão que os nossos produtores têm como desafio, e portanto também é um desafio social, de sustentabilidade social, mas também com impacto económico e financeiro com que nós também olhamos com prioridade, e portanto nós temos vindo a robustecer aquilo que é a nossa resposta a estes desafios, tentando, através, obviamente, do financiamento, mas também olhando para outro tipo de formas de levar conhecimento adequado aos nossos produtores. Isto para quê? Para não ser uma questão de posicionamento, porque a sustentabilidade muitas vezes foi olhada tradicionalmente como uma questão de marca, não como uma questão de compliance, porque somos obrigados a reportar, etc., mas por uma questão de risco e impacto financeiro que isto tem nos nossos produtores e que, consequentemente, pode vir a ter em nós próprios. Obviamente que a primeira lente que nós olhamos e que todos os bancos olhamos, e o Nicolas também referiu isso, tem a ver com a descarbonização. É aquele desafio muito mais direto, com que o business case já está mais comprovado, as questões da produção de energia renovável, da mobilidade limpa, etc., já estão muito comprovados. Para o setor agrícola, para o setor agrícola também é um desafio para questões de eficiência energética, de autonomia energética, portanto, que agora está cada vez também mais evidente o valor acrescentado que isto traz também para a própria sustentabilidade financeira das organizações, e, portanto, nós começámos a olhar para a descarbonização numa primeira vaga. E, portanto, nós criámos o nosso plano de descarbonização. É um plano net zero que tem targets de descarbonização para a economia portuguesa, E, obviamente, a agricultura é um dos setores-alvo dessa descarbonização. Portanto, o nosso impacto está nos nossos clientes, a quem financiamos e como financiamos, e, portanto, o nosso objetivo, o nosso compromisso é apoiar a descarbonização de vários setores de atividade, incluindo o próprio setor agrícola. E como é que nós fazemos isso? Nós fazemos isso tendo linhas protocoladas com o Banco Português de Fomento, com o FEI, etc., em que há vantagens de acesso, tanto para o banco como para os produtores, tanto para as empresas, como para o próprio financiador, que é a questão das garantias públicas, linhas com desconto de comissões, de descontos de spread. Também temos vindo a desenvolver linhas próprias e este ano ainda Deus queira que consigamos lançar uma linha própria de descarbonização, mas também temos lançado algumas linhas próprias que têm a ver com a mobilidade limpa, porque também são linhas muito mais diretas em termos de elegibilidade e, portanto, facilitam também, enquanto financiador, a ter esta oferta disponível. Por outro lado, temos também encetado algumas parcerias de negócio em que nos associamos a outros, a retalhistas, no caso, por exemplo, o Clube de Produtores do Continente, em que os produtores que sejam produtores deste clube e que tenham se comprometido com compromissos de sustentabilidade definidos pelo continente, têm acesso também à redução de spread em condições de financiamento no crédito agrícola. Portanto, é uma forma de, junto com outros grandes players da cadeia de valor, ajudar os produtores agrícolas a ter acesso a financiamento muito mais em conta. Mas, obviamente, que, como também já foi referido, nós temos consciência que não é o custo do financiamento não é um custo, digamos, o mais relevante ou o único relevante para os nossos produtores agrícolas. Muito do custo, e o Food for Sustainability também é um exemplo daquilo que é necessário fazer com este tipo de produtores, que é levar conhecimento adequado, conhecimento customizado àquilo que é a realidade dos nossos produtores agrícolas. E, portanto, nós no Crédito Agrícola também começámos a olhar para as questões e aproveitando muito aquilo que é a nossa proximidade com as comunidades, e nós desenhámos um programa que chamámos Proximidade, um programa para a proximidade para a transição e impacto, em que o objetivo, e para o setor agrícola temos aqui alguns exemplos, o objetivo é levar conhecimento e levar os nossos produtores ao terreno para conhecer práticas de agricultura regenerativa, de práticas de melhor gestão hídrica, de melhor eficiência energética, portanto, levar os nossos produtores ao terreno, não ser só em sala de aula, também é importante, também há sempre um momento em que os nossos clientes estão em sala de aula e compreendem os conceitos e que se são ensinados conceitos relevantes sobre estas matérias, mas aqui o objetivo principal e a diferenciação principal é mesmo esta vertente de abordagem no terreno, abordagem prática, em que temos levado os nossos clientes, os nossos produtores agrícolas, através destes programas. Depois, estes programas resultam sempre em fichas técnicas, em relatórios, que podem ser depois consultados por outros produtores agrícolas que, obviamente, não tiveram acesso às sessões no terreno, porque estas sessões, sendo no terreno, não podem chegar a todos os produtores, tem um número limitado de participantes, mas o objetivo é que a experiência destes produtores nestas sessões seja depois documentada, detalhada e possa ser consultada por todos os produtores. Nós temos depois isto um bocadinho também replicado para outros setores de atividade, como por exemplo o turismo, em que adotámos uma metodologia de aceleração, portanto, em sala de aula, ajudar várias empresas do setor a desenhar os seus relatórios, a identificar os indicadores mais importantes, a definir os compromissos de sustentabilidade mais importantes, e, portanto, esta metodologia de trabalho conjunto, de mãos na terra, mãos no terreno, em conjunto, é aquilo que devíamos trazer, que vimos também diferenciador, que o crédito agrícola poderia trazer para o setor financeiro, que não é muito habitual um financiador fazer este tipo de abordagem. Depois, também em termos de abordagem uma nova abordagem àquilo que é incentivar os nossos clientes a adotar práticas de transição, também sentimos a necessidade de celebrar os clientes que já são exemplo de boas práticas, de adoção de boas práticas. Isto para inspirar outros, mas também para incentivar os clientes que de facto investiram na transição, dando-lhes lá está marketing quase de borla, é um marketing de borla, na verdade, contando a história e a jornada deles, e portanto temos aqui esta série documental que já vai para a terceira temporada, em que o setor agrícola obviamente tem aqui um grande destaque, um importante destaque nesta série documental. Por outro lado, também temos, lá está, como nós já apoiamos muitos eventos marcantes do setor, a Ovibés, a Agroglobal, etc., o que sentimos também necessidade é começar a apoiar a discussão de eventos que tenham este mindset da agricultura regenerativa também já como espírito. E, portanto, muito recentemente apoiámos o Regeneration Wine Fest, foi aqui um evento na Herdade das Servas dedicado à viticultura regenerativa e, portanto, queremos incentivar também estes eventos que são muito particularmente relevantes para o networking, para a troca de ideias entre agricultores que já adotam este tipo de práticas. E por fim, também deixar aqui uma mensagem também bastante importante, que é a necessidade que nós temos, enquanto financiador, também conhecer melhor ainda aquilo que são as necessidades do setor. E isto só se faz com muito mais informação. E, portanto, nós só sabemos qual é a verdadeira exposição dos nossos clientes a riscos físicos ou de transição se conseguirmos ter a informação granular. Nós sabemos que partimos muito de informação que é sectorial, que é por localização, mas o que nós precisamos também é perceber as práticas de cada uma dos nossos clientes, dos nossos produtores, e por isso também temos avançado com algumas iniciativas de recolha, de ter ferramentas disponíveis para os nossos clientes poderem gerir melhor este tipo de informação. Por fim, e como ambição futura, espero que aqui no curto médio prazo, é olharmos para além das questões de descarbonização e, portanto, já começámos a falar internamente no desenvolvimento da oferta que possa chegar às questões de adaptação e resiliência. Já temos também soluções de proteção. Portanto, muito tradicionalmente, as nossas empresas seguradoras já têm seguros para colheitas, etc., que é particularmente relevante para os nossos produtores agrícolas, mas nós agora temos a olhar muito para aquilo que é a adaptação, a resiliência e as questões da proteção da biodiversidade, que queremos muito trabalhar porque estamos conscientes daquilo que é a dependência dos serviços de ecossistema dos nossos clientes e, portanto, o banco também tem que se posicionar, também tem que ter oferta, também tem que ter resposta para estas questões. Obrigado.
Thank you so much for such an interesting presentation. It was really, and also for your openness about, why you are developing. Crédito Agrícola is developing
Exactly.
this work. It's also a question of ensuring that that we manage well the assets that we are, landing upon, and also for bringing Is it fine if we speak English? I think you can fully understand. And also to bring the carbon footprint also to the board. I have a question, and it's a follow for all of you. It's a follow-up from what we have in the chat, but just allow me very, very quickly to again share with our participants the final assessment. Just very conscious that we are really on the time of finishing this webinar. And I'll ask the team also to have the link here in the chat, and also to remind our audience that also aligned with what André mentioned, that we do have throughout May some promotions to gain more knowledge and to keep knowing more about resilience, regeneration, and particularly going back what Jessica just mentioned. We fully understand what we cannot see does not count. But for example, in terms of soil microbes, this is really, really important. We cannot see them. But also here is the opportunity to know a little bit more what they do and how they are at the service of regeneration and resilience. So while I have made this last comments and taking back on what we have here in the chat, just one final question to everyone. André, you can answer in Portuguese if you are more comfortable. That's absolutely sure. So I think André showed really well that what the bank is doing beyond lending, and you mentioned some of your capacity building programs, acceleration programs, learning, knowledge. I would also like to know from Piraeus Bank what measures are you taking to go beyond just lending? Do you have something that helps, for example, clients to measure impact, to improve practices or access to some technical support? And for you, Jessica, what specific measures would you recommend us to take so that women can actually be more be a bigger part here of the farming system? So I don't know who would like to start. So we want to know a little bit more specific measures that go beyond financing and actually ensuring that we have resilient women farmers that come more and more to the fore. Jessica.
Yeah, sorry, I'll go first also because I have to run and collect my children, but classic. But I think some specific measures we need to indeed reassess how we finance, but also revalue the kind of way we understand farming. And I spoke to this a little bit in the text. We need new kinds of markets. We need public support for real food production that redistributes wealth. And there are good models. There's models of public supermarkets, public procurement, community-supported agriculture, and these may not be solutions to food security full stop, but they're certainly part of a critical movement towards regeneration that address so many of the challenges that we're concerned about, from security, resilience, climate change, and equity. And they do exist, and this narrative that they don't feed the world is also being problematized and challenged through new forms of research. And I'm really excited to hear that banks, our financing structures, are actually paying attention to these kinds of alternatives and thinking it through. That was really, so thank you to my co-speakers. Sorry for rushing, but I do have to go get my child.
Thank you, Jessica. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank
Let's
you.
definitely keep in touch. We are also about to finish. Nikolaos, any final comments on how Piraeus Bank is moving beyond lending? And actually, because you mentioned that you are also an enabler for this for this transition, you also have the journey for modernization. Does it stop with financial instruments, or do you have some other type of support?
It starts from financing. I turned pink. I don't know what happened today. And I think from our side, I think we start with financing, and then we try to add more and more layers. Just in 3 bullets, I mentioned education. For us, is also important to add the advisory layer, which also supports and adds value to the investment plan that is to be implemented for the next day of the farm. And for us also, the ease to finance is very important. And finally, cooperation is I think the most important thing in this journey, and try to bring all the stakeholders on the same table so the farmer and the whole stakeholders have the same view on the issue.
Okay, thank you. That's definitely very, very important cooperation. Let's all be part of the same solution and not the other sides of the problem. And if we see someone clapping, so Nicholas, very good. Andre, I'm sure you also address some of the issues that Nicholas just point out. What do you think is the most challenging from the programs that you have been running beyond finance? Where do you think we still are a long way to achieve? Is this collaboration? Is it the knowledge? Is it the entrepreneurial mindset? Is it the risk?
I think it's a mix of all. And I think the business case of these investments is not so clear to our producers. So we have to work with them to convince them that the investments today are better for related to the impact of the future. But also I think the missing data, knowledge gaps, I think it's a big challenge of today. Artificial intelligence can help us to get more data, more knowledge efficiently, but we have to invest now because we have
Tomorrow is already too late.
running time, and I think cooperation with associations, but also with public sector is important because our public policies are not so well designed to help our producers to invest in adaptation.
Thank you very much. And this is what we are building here. We are trying to build a community that is ready to act now. And fortunately, our time is up. I will put this slide up. Thank you so much for your attention throughout this session, for your attention throughout the cycle, for your attention for the 2026 webinars. Please stay in touch, keep following us in our networks, in our social media. We will come back with more interesting programs, more interesting sessions. So please do stay in touch. You already know our contact points. So anything that comes to your mind and you think that we can collaborate, please stay in touch. From my end, it was, and from Food for Sustainability Academy team, and I have here, let me just say again, Silvia, Soraya, Ana Sofia, Dimitra, João. A big thank you also to you for making this possible, and we will come back soon with other great initiatives. Thank you all. See you soon. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. See you soon.